Hello and welcome to the video. And this video is going to show you how to make the game of life in Blender, and we're going to create it in geometry nodes. So let's actually get rid of all the other stuff, just use the cube, go into geometry nodes, create a new setup, and we're actually going to disconnect the cube. We're not going to use that. We want to use a grid, just like that. And we're going to use the group import here for our vertices. And with a math node, we're going to add, let's actually, connect it like that, and add 1 to this. So we can control the amount of faces of the grid and not the vertices. And set it like to something like 9 for the start. Okay, so this is our grid. And now what we're going to do to get this working, we're not actually going to change anything about the geometry, but we're just going to set up an attribute for each face that we call alive, and this is going to tell us if a cell is alive or if it's dead. And for now we're going to just initialize some of the grid faces to be alive at the start. So we get a random value just to make some noise for the start, because if in the beginning all cells are dead, it would mean that nothing would happen in the simulation. We need some alive cells at the start. So let's actually get a position node as well and a vector math set to length. So we get kind of like a circular selection from the center outwards, just to make the noise a little bit cooler. And let's get a math node. We can copy that from here. Set to subtract. And from 0.5 we're gonna subtract that and use it as a selection. And what you can also do, let's move this over a little bit and get a float curve. And with that we can kind of visually control the fall off for the density. And to actually show you what's happening, we maybe also have to already set up the material. So let's do that. We make a new material, call it alive, go in the shader editor, and we get rid of the principled because we're going to use an emission shader for that, just so it looks a little bit more clear. And we're going to use our attribute alive, obviously, to control the strength. Because it's a boolean, it's only going to be 0 or 1, meaning a face will either be black or white. Black if it's dead, white if it's alive. So to see our material, we need to get a set material node, make it here at the end, because we're going to add stuff in between later. Set the alive material. Now you can see that with this setup here, that we can actually put into a group, we can set up some starting points. You can control the density here, and with this value you can control the circle. It's not looking much like a circle right now, and that's because maybe we have not enough resolution, so you can maybe go higher. Let's actually go to 100 cells. Now you can see that we actually made a circle. And yeah, with that you can control the density, and this is just for the starting points. So you can make a frame for that and call that noise circle. Okay, so now we can actually start creating the complex math that's needed to recreate the game of life rules and to make this thing to a simulation. So you need a simulation zone here, and inside the simulation zone we're going to change the attribute alive for each phase over time again and again. So let's set this to Boolean again and to the phases, and we're going to override the alive values again. So right now all the points disappear because we changed all of them to be dead or alive, either depending on what we put in here. So what you can do now is we actually need the index and the named attribute alive of each cell. And what we want to do is we compare the neighbors. So if we actually go inside here, and I can show you what we want to do. So this index node is going to give us the index that we're currently working on. Let's say we are here, for example. And now we want to say, tell me how many of these 8 neighboring cells around are alive. So to get to these points, to get their information, we need a specific node called the evaluated index node. And if we plug this in here and set this to Boolean and plug the attribute in here, this is going to give us the alive status of the cell we're currently working on. And to get the neighbors, we just need to add or subtract some values from it to get to these indices, because if this is like, for example, cell 15, then this would be the cell 14 and this would be the cell 16, because Blender is distributing the indices in columns like that. So let's actually add 1 to the index and look at the alive value of this point. Oh, actually, not point, phase. Look at the alive value of this phase. This is very important that you set up the node like this, or else it won't work correctly. So this is looking at the cell here. And if we want to look at the cell below that, we maybe want to duplicate this, set this to subtract, and plug the index in here. And now we have these 2 neighbors. Let's call this look up and down. Now, if you want to look to the left or the right, we would have to subtract the resolution, actually, our 100 vertices from the index to get to this point. And to get to the right side, we have to add 100. So maybe we want, to get this vertices x value here and add that to the index instead of 1. And here we want to subtract it. And let's connect the index to the add and subtract node as well. So now we have the alive status of the neighbors left and right. So we call this not look up and down, look left and right. And from these position we can actually also easily look up and down again to get the corners checked as well. So let's just copy these again, and we need that for this arm and for this arm here on this side as well. So we kind of need to connect these with each arm here, but also we're gonna we're going to use this as well later. So it's getting a little bit messy, but trust me, it's going to work. So let's actually connect these. We forgot that. So from this arm, we're going to add 1 again, and we're also going to subtract 1. Yeah, look at the faces. And the same goes for here. We add 1 and we subtract 1. Now we actually need to make a tower of add nodes. Sorry. Let's get a math node, because we want to add all these values together to get the sum of all the neighbors. I don't know, maybe this is enough. We will see. And let's actually connect all of these together. Always make sure you connect the output of the evaluated index node here, because this is what's important. Oh yeah, we actually forgot. We forgot something. I'm sorry. Let's disconnect this again. It's very important. Maybe we move this away a little bit so it's more clear. Oops. Move this up a little bit. So it's just want to make sure that I don't forget to also connect these. And the same goes for here. So let's move that up to something like here. Just so, sure, this is taking a little bit of time. So actually need one more add node. Like that. And I think now we have all the 8 neighbor blocks connected. Should be 8, right? Yeah, 8 connections. Now you can collapse all of this so it's a little bit more compact. Yeah, maybe do something like that. Okay, so this is actually, if we were to label this, this would be the sum of alive neighbors. Okay. So, oh, actually we forgot this one. Yeah, that also belongs here. Okay, let's actually save this file for now. And maybe put this in a group so we have a little bit more space. Okay, right here. So now that we have all the alive status values of our neighbors, we need to compare these. So we need some Boolean math for that. So one of the rules of the game is, if a dead cell has 3 live neighbors, it gets born. So if we get a compare node and we change it to integer, and we're going to look at the sum of alive neighbors, and if it's equal to 3, a cell gets born, meaning that this output, if this is true, it outputs a 1 and makes the cell alive. If it's not true, it's going to output a 0 and it's basically going to kill the cell. So, but there's more rules, and another rule would be if we get another compare node. One rule is the survive rule, and it says if the current cell is alive, so meaning we actually need an evaluated index node again. We're going to check the boolean on the face, and it must be our named attribute here. Oh, and actually, I forgot something very important. We actually need to connect this named attribute to all of all of our arms. We forgot that because yeah, these evaluated index nodes, they actually don't get a value. I forgot that. So let's real quick connect all of these. It's very important for the thing to work. And it's getting a lot of virus here, but oh wait, actually, did I do something wrong? No, this goes down here, and I think I connected everything. Should be right. Okay, so back to where we were. So we are saying if our current cell is equal to 0, meaning if it's dead, this is the status, own alive status. If it's 0, meaning if the cell is dead and it has 2 or 3 live neighbors. No, if it's alive. We want to know if it's alive. If our cell is alive and it has 2 or 3 neighbors, then it's going to survive. That's what we want to do. So we need one more of these and look if the sum of our neighbors is 2 or 3. That's what we have here. So we can connect these two with an OR gate. This one and this one. And it's alive as well. So an AND gate is required. Like that. Let's actually, make that smaller. So this is the survive rule, but this is also the born rule as well, the birth rule. So we actually need to connect this output here with this output with an OR gate. And this should actually be working now. If we did everything correct, these conditions are enough to make the game working. And if we now go back into this shading and we let it play, you can see it's actually working. Are we getting some gliders here? No. Oh, well, actually, I think there was a glider about to be appearing. So let's actually get outside here and move this node over here. And this is actually the working game. So maybe now you can increase the resolution and try some stuff. Make the circle even bigger or something. And control the density, maybe not as dense, because if it's too dense in some areas, it's going to die pretty soon, you see. the center's disappearing pretty early because it's all dying because of overpopulation. And you can actually see some gliders here appearing. Yeah. So this is really cool. This is the working game of life in geometry nodes. So if you interested in making this thing look more interesting visually, or if you're interested in trying out all the cool patterns that do specific stuff that you can create inside the game of life, then maybe also watch my next video, because I'm going to make another tutorial on how to get any cool starter pattern into your game of life simulation here to do whatever you want. And I'm also going to show you some cool more techniques to shade this in a much better way, so it's not only black and white. So if you're interested in that, make sure you watch the next tutorial. And for this video, this is now over, so goodbye.